Around 1350, the last remnants of the Black Plague had been eradicated, leaving half of Europe's population dead. People were tired of living in the now deemed Dark Ages and were demanding a change in lifestyle. The Catholic Church was still in power during the early Renaissance, but was forced to come to terms with the new demands of humanism.
Northern Italy, specifically Florence, is believed to be the birthplace of the Renaissance. Writings from early authors Dante Alighieri and Francesco Petrarca encompass all ideas of Renaissance. Moving on from medieval ideas, the Renaissance began to focus on humanism, or the movement to recover, interpret, and assimilate the language, literature, and learning values of ancient Greece and Rome.
Scholars in Italy began to press government to apply Roman and Greek principles in their ruling, and soon the feudalist system fell apart. Humanistic believed it was so important to transcend to the afterlife with a perfect mind and body, which could be done through education. The old ways of religion over science were deteriorating. The people were beginning to enlighten themselves with the thoughts of ancient philosophers.
Renaissance thinking focused more on human philosophy and behavior rather than applied sciences. In that sense, the era failed in advancing forward in science very far. However, scholars were now welcome to explore farther into science without fear of severe persecution by the Church. Greek and Roman contexts were revived and old thoughts were refined.
In the early Renaissance, many new theories were formed. Nicholas Copernicus made a bold claim that the sun was the center of the universe, versus the church-approved idea that the earth was. In 1492, Christopher Columbus's discovery of the New World shattered the early ideas that the world was flat. Galileo helped advance the field of astronomy with his invention of the telescope.
Other clever inventions were developed during the Renaissance. The printing press, made by Johannes Gutenberg, helped spread the Renaissance ideas throughout Europe quickly. Oil painting and the first piano, called the spinet, were all invented. Perhaps the greatest thinker of the Renaissance, Leonardo da Vinci, had ideas of parachutes, helicopters, tanks, and even machine guns. Staying well-rounded, though, da Vinci also studied anatomy, creating famous pieces such as the Vitruvian Man.
Music and church affiliation began to separate during Renaissance. Love songs called madrigals became acceptable, and music was able to be widely distributed with printed copies. Also, the 5-line scale was invented, so music was able to be more easily recorded.
Religious music still existed, however. Church music was often a cappella and composed of more than one part. The Renaissance did change the style of music, though, as it focused more on blending and harmonizing rather than individual parts.
Music had richer texture, often 4 or more parts. Also, scales were greatly increased, so more significant contrasts in sound were heard.
Art during the Renaissance became more diverse and focused more on nature and the beauty of life versus afterlife. During medieval times, sculptures were considered a form of idolatry and not allowed. However, when eras changed, experimentation was available. Some of the most famous sculptures come from the time of the Renaissance.
Paintings and drawings began to obtain depth, as previous artists had been unable to completely capture the third dimension. Also, architecture began to become a main focus. Buildings, such as the Tower of Pisa, were constructed in new creative ways.
Artists also used new techniques that reached deeper than the canvas. Symbolism in painting became popular. Leonardo da Vinci paid close attention to body anatomy and was able to depict proportional hue. Even daring new artistic attempts were made. Michelangelo painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel hanging from a scaffolding. Renaissance artworks are among the most famous in the world.
With the invention of the printing press, many authors were inspired to write materials such as poems, stories, and plays. They also were able to use their native languages and not Latin. Literature no longer revolved around religion, and many creative new ideas began to appear. It also helped spread the ideas of humanism throughout Europe.
From Dante's Inferno to Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, many fantastic pieces of literature were created. Authors were also able to use literature as a device to make statements about society. English authors Shakespeare and Geoffrey Chaucer used their works to criticize the society classes.
No perfect eras exist. That may explain why throughout the Renaissance, a time that ideas of humanism and equality were abundant, social hierarchy still existed. Women were considered property at that time and had no importance but to bear and rear children.
Upper-class citizens had businesses to run to make money. Men sought wives with a large dowry to become even richer. No love or connections needed to be made. Wives simply had to be submissive and polite in public.
Lower and middle classes looked for compatibility in partners, but were still often left single. Women who didn't marry had to find work, and were often paid less than the men who did the same jobs. Upper and lower class citizens still got along surprisingly well, and no real hostility between the classes existed.
Fashion was also a way to keep lower class in line. Clothes were often a display of wealth, and it wasn't uncommon to wear your wealth. Because upper class clothes cost so much, it was a smart investment that retained its value. Lower class citizens had less flashy clothes. Social segregation hasn't disappeared even hundreds of years later and still even exists today.
The Renaissance was a huge step forward for society. The Catholic lost complete control of its empire and society was granted new freedoms.
Many people jumped at the opportunity and began to experiment in many different creative fields. With less religious obligations, people began to focus more on themselves and becoming better people.
The Renaissance gave people the opportunity to advance and explore the world among them. The era was the revolution of mankind and idealism. Without the Renaissance, life as we know it today would not exist in the same free manner as it does.
These ones go south.
Yes, sir, they didn't stop a beat, they didn't play the drum. Back in medieval times, they would say our music's dumb sound.
The churches had strict rules about notes and tools. To play but Elsa or Lear, you would have been a fool.
Walls rearranged, but these dark ways you standard for exchange. Renaissance came to play in so many ways. New ideas were considered a pain. Made and exposed. This song makes you wanna move, okay, dance tonight. Songs with emotions were composed. The moment started, the ways of singing.
I like the way we go. Stop. Change the music, let it drop. Fix this art, let's make it pop.
We gonna flip this, fix this, switch this.
Make this new lifestyle really hot. Change the music, let it drop. Fix this art, let's make it pop.
We gonna flip this, fix this, switch this.
Make this new lifestyle really hot.
But it didn't stop there. New thoughts, please let us share. Where this goes, who cares? New artwork's a bit of play.
That's right, like the Mona Lisa, done by Da Vinci, charming with her mysterious smile, and buildings like the Tower Keys where they had nice designs with a lot more style.
New techniques, short and like street. Artists found new ways to make their work free. Renaissance came to play in different ways. Ideas were considered okay. These awesome freedoms helped inspire. Beside the messages these artists tried to convey, these fashion to our hearts that fire. These great eras famous artists are still
I like the way we go. Stop. Change the music, let it drop. Fix this art, let's make it pop.
We gonna flip this, fix this, switch this.
Make this new lifestyle really hot. Change the music, let it drop. Fix this art, let's make it pop.
We gonna flip this, fix this, switch this.
Make this new lifestyle really
So
hot.
what exactly did the Renaissance allow?
Are you kidding me? It still affects you now.
Are you serious? Must be delirious. Europe was imperious. Without the rebirth, where our life be at this time.
How should I know?
In dark ages.
Alright, so what?
The change is blind.
Okay, so
Moving on to new pages.
here the Renaissance things were a bit more forgiving. People that time behind all the possibilities. Our life became a lot more worth living. People know the bigger, better things. So look at all possibilities.
strange we would have endured. Didn't happen because of these old ways. We've escaped better lifestyles. There's change ensured. Because of it, we will help our world take on a
I like the
new
way we
shape.
go. Stop. Change the music, let it drop. Fix this art, let's make it pop.
We gonna flip this, fix this, switch this.
Make this new lifestyle really hot. Change the music, let it drop. Fix this art, let's make it pop.
We gonna flip this, fix this, switch this.
Make this new lifestyle really hot.